Hallelujah. Hallelujah. And Genesis 2:24 says, and they shall become one flesh. One flesh. So we can title this One Flesh in Marriage. One Flesh in Marriage. The portion of Genesis 24 above is an obvious reference to sexual union. The portion that we just read, Genesis 2:24. That is in reference to sexual union, and they shall become one flesh in marriage. One flesh. According to 1 Corinthians 6:16, when we experience sexual intercourse with a member of the opposite sex, we physically become one with that person. Amen. And I guess nowadays we have to extend that, even when you have in same sex, man. When same sex have sex, yes, they become one. When two lesbians are having sex with each other, they become one, according to the Word of God. In 1 Corinthians 6:16, it says, or do you not know that he who is joined to a harlot is one body with her? For the two, he says, shall become one flesh. So even though it's not marriage, even though you're not in marriage, if a person goes with a harlot, if a male goes with a harlot, they become one.
It's your wife.
They become one. In the spirit, they become one. And they become one physically. Yeah. And that is why the Word of God teaches against adultery and fornication. Single persons are not to have sex for the same reason. And that's why God teaches that single persons are not to have sex or to marriage. Nobody is to have sex or to marriage. And even a married person is not to have sex outside of that marriage with somebody else, because they become one again with that third person. With that third person. Or do you not know that he who is joined to a harlot is one with her? That's God. That's the Word of God. You can't change that. You can't argue that. You can't debate that. You can't discuss that and try to water that down and try to rationalize that. That's God. That's God's Word. Or do you not know that your bodies are members of Christ? Shall I then take the members of Christ and make them members of a harlot? Certainly not. Or a whoremonger? Certainly not. We don't have that freedom. We don't have that right to just have sex with anybody. We don't have that right. God looks down on that. God curses that. We are not to have sex with anybody other than our marital spouse. I don't care what society is doing. I don't care what is acceptable by society. I don't care what is acceptable but by other young people or other persons or other marriages and so on. No. According to 1 Corinthians 6:16 that we read, when we experience sexual intercourse with a member of the opposite sex, or anybody for that matter, we physically become one with that person. That's the word. We become one. We become one. And that's frightening to think about it. That's why you can't be jumping from one bed to the next, having sex with this person, having sex with the next person, having sex with any Tom, Dick, and Harry, because every person you have sex with, you become one with that person. According to God. According to God. Now, you might not be able to understand that. But that's fine. That's fine. That's God said that. God said that. Yes. You become one with that person. And the context of that verse to the Corinthians is a warning from the Apostle Paul to notoriously immoral Christians in Corinth not to join themselves with prostitutes in sexual promiscuity. He called this a sin against a man's own body. A sin against a woman's own body to have sex with somebody other than your marital spouse. It's a sin. God frowns at that. And God will judge you. He will judge you for it. To have sex with anybody other than your husband or your wife. That's it. We don't debate that. We don't discuss it. That's it. And so, beyond the obvious meaning of becoming one flesh through sexual intercourse that we read in Genesis 2:24, it states a law of marriage that permeates every area of life. And this law, the law of possession, is the key to establishing trust and intimacy in a relationship. This law of possession. And once we understand and submit to this law, we will experience a significant depth of unity and bonding in marriage. However, If we break this law, even innocently, the damage to the trust and intimacy of the relationship in the marriage can be severe, if not fatal. And so we cannot even risk the chance of slipping once in a marriage by having sex with somebody else, having sex with your best friend husband, or having sex with your best friend wife, or having sex with a young fella in the office, or having sex with a young girl at the office during Christmas party. You know what happens when we have these Christmas parties. Everybody drink and get drunk, and everybody get party. Everybody feel party, and everybody want to have fun and let their head down that kind of way. It happens in every office, I believe, in the world at these Christmas parties. And so we have to be careful. And it happens even with married people in these kind of situations. So we got to be careful. Once we understand and submit to this law, we will experience a significant depth of unity and bonding in marriage. And so to understand the full meaning and implications the law of possession has in marriage, consider this observation. Marriage is a complete union in which all things previously owned and managed individually or separately are now owned and managed jointly. Uh-oh. That's a big one. Let me repeat that. Marriage is a complete union in which all things previously owned and managed individually or separately are now owned and managed jointly. And it's for that reason why we got to be careful who we marry. If a billionaire or a millionaire, a multi-millionaire marries any ordinary person off the street, that means that everything that he has or everything that she has automatically becomes theirs too. And what if that person cannot manage your wealth, your prosperity? That's a big problem. And so there are no exceptions to this rule. Anything in marriage that is not willfully submitted to the ownership of the other person is held outside the union, producing legitimate jealousy. Where there's a house, where there's a car, where there's a boat, where there's monies in the bank, where there's a business or whatever. And so the act of becoming one flesh involves much more than sex. It involves merging everything owned by and associated with two persons into one mass, jointly owned and managed. Let me repeat that. The act of becoming one flesh involves much more than sex. And again, this is why we have to be careful who we marry. We got to consider who we marry. Because it involves merging everything owned by and associated with two persons into one mass, jointly owned and managed. And so, if there is something a spouse is unwilling to merge into that marriage, that spouse is breaking the law of possession and violating the rights of the other spouse. Again, that is why it's important for us to consider who we are marrying. Because the other person might not be responsible. Might be a fun person. They might be nice and all that, but they can't handle prosperity. They can't handle money. They can't handle wealth. And so to avoid missing the full meaning of God's design for oneness in marriage, we need to look at what Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians chapter 7 about sex and the marriage covenant. There Paul not only continued his comments from the 6th chapter, but also explained them more fully in verses 3 and 4 of chapter 7. He says that the husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife, and likewise the wife to her husband. Let me repeat that. The husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife, and likewise the wife to her husband. The wife's body does not belong to her alone, but also to her husband. This is something that most I guess, females need to understand. The wife's body does not belong to her alone, but also to her husband. And I think if that principle is understood by most wives in a marriage, a lot of problems in marriages can be eliminated. The wife's body does not belong to her alone. So when a woman gets into marriage, she has to understand that principle. She has to understand that principle, that her body doesn't belong to her alone, but also to her husband in the same way. The husband's body does not belong to him alone, but also to his wife. 1 Corinthians 7, verses 3 to 4. And so, it refers to the husband respecting the sexual needs of his wife in verse 3. And to meet them according to, of course, we speak of legitimate needs. Legitimate needs, not anything, but legitimate needs. Likewise, the same duty is imposed upon the wife regarding the husband. And verse 4 refers to the fact that the husband and the wife belong to each other, meaning neither has the right to refuse normal demands. Neither has the right to refuse normal demands. Would to God more wise understand that. I think it's easier for men to cooperate with that principle than it is for women. Did you notice what Paul said about the ownership of our bodies in marriage? We are to change ownership and control in the management of our bodies from sole personal ownership and control to shared ownership and control with our spouses. We're talking about our bodies now. Our bodies. A wife, and she enters into a marriage, she has to understand now that, hey, my body belongs to my husband. As well. And I know it's my body. It's my body. I have to take care of it. I have to feed it. I have to I have to feed it. I have to clean it, clothe it, and do everything that will help to keep my body healthy and strong. Yes. It's my body, but now that I am married, my body also belongs to my husband, and vice versa. Once you get into marriage, you have to understand that. And I wonder if, if in most cases when persons get married and they're being constantly, go through counseling, whether that is explained to them and instilled to the wife or the wife to be. Is that explained sufficiently to the wife to be? And is it explained enough to the husband to be? That you macho and all that, yes, and you all that in a bag of chips, but your body's not under yours, it belongs to her too. And so you can't take your body anywhere and spend as much time with the guys and spend as much time on the golf course and spend as much time on the track or spend as much time playing tennis or football and neglect your wife, because your body, that body that you're playing golf with and that body that you're playing squash with and that you're playing football with, that body belongs to your wife. You follow? You follow? So you can't run your body down and then come home tired and worn out you have to understand that your body belongs to your wife. So when you come home, you should come home strong and healthy and ready to go. Ready to meet her needs. And you can't come home 11 o'clock at night when she's sleepy and tired, or 12 o'clock after you've been over the guys all night watching the NBA or watching the football game or whatever. No, bring your body home. Your wife needs your body. Bring your body home. Don't waste all night being with the guys. Her body is out there with the guys, man. Her body needs to be home. So we have to do a lot of reconditioning. We have to recondition our thinking. Now that we are married, the things that you could have done or the things that you used to do as a single, you can no longer do now. Because your body belongs to your wife. And she has a right. She has rights to your body. She has rights to your time. She has rights to you.
Lord.
And vice versa. Lord have mercy.
Deep.
So anything that is not mutually owned and controlled by both partners will lead to division and problems. Yes, it will lead to divisions and problems. And so each area of our marriage that we willingly surrender to joint ownership and control will build a spirit of trust and intimacy in the relationship. And so you see, when we do everything contrary to this principle, what it does to intimacy. What it does to intimacy. Man, you out with the guys all night, now you come on talking about intimacy. I'm tired. I've been up all night taking care of the children, taking care of helping them in the homework, taking care of the house and cooking and this, that. And now I'm tired, man. I got to go to work in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning. Wait, go from around me. You got to be considerate as a husband of all these things and all the things that a wife has to do. In fact, you should be in home helping her with the children, helping her with the cooking, helping her with the house. If you want to talk about wanting to be intimate, shared responsibility. I talking. Your wife ain't a machine. She can turn on and turn off. She's a human being, and she has a body that is frail and she's human, and she will be tired, and she has to go to work in the morning, just like you. You know. So anything that is not mutually owned and controlled by both partners in the marriage will lead to division and problems. Understand this now. And so here we have 3 real life examples to illustrate the results and consequences when this law is violated. I'll give you 3 examples of when this law is violated, the consequences of what happens in a marriage relationship when this law is violated. And number one is Fred desired to be intimate and enjoy intimacy with Marilyn. It would not, but would not participate, Marilyn that is, when he did something that angered her. Okay? And then she would tell him, I'm going to cut you off for a week if you do not straighten up, or if you do that again, I'll cut you off for a week. And she meant it. It sounds typically of Bahamian wives in particular. And so Fred resented Marilyn deeply because she was aware of his strong sex drive. And she used her body as a means to punish and manipulate him, like most Bahamian women do. They use their bodies as a means to punish and control their husbands. In other words, Marilyn used sex to control her husband and their marriage. That's how they manipulate and control their husbands. Not only did she cut Fred off when he misbehaved or when he didn't do things that pleased her, but she also bargained for things with sex, which is wicked. Which is wicked. And women do that. Women do that. They use their bodies, they use intimacy, they use sex to get what they want. And I don't see no love in that. That ain't love. That's manipulation, that's control, that's witchcraft. That's witchcraft. Plus you're frustrating the man. You're frustrating the man, and it's for that reason that many men go and get a sweetheart. Little do women understand that. I don't need to put up with this. Huh? I don't need to put up with this. After all, so-and-so right down the road, man, she loved the day I walk on, or my secretary in the office. I don't need to put up with this. That's the average attitude of the man when the woman acts up and